Okay, then we start with the first presentation by Gamze Saygi. Gamze is a postdoctoral researcher in the Freedom of the Streets project, which is headed by Danielle van den Heuvel, Associate Professor in our History Department at the University of Amsterdam. A project that is funded by the NWO, Dutch National Research Council, from their innovation scheme. And Gamze is a specialist in digital strategies for spatial and historical analysis. And we're very pleased that she's willing to present her ongoing work on 3D modeling for this exciting project. So Gamze, the floor is yours. Please share your screen.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So I will now share my screen, and just please let me know if I am sharing something else. Okay.
Yes, looks good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to Julia and Tunis for inviting me to present part of my work in here. The title of my talk is 3D Modeling for the Depiction of a Pre-Modern Street Life. As Julia mentioned, the research I will be speaking about today is in the context of a larger project, the Freedom of the Streets project, and I do believe several of you are already familiar with the project itself. Let me first briefly mention what research questions we tackle as a team within the project, and I would like to talk more about my sub-project, especially its 3D component. Our project investigates what happens to street life in the pre-modern era, to say between around 1600 and 1850. We look at gender norms, at the way cities are governed, the urban form, and lastly, movement and use itself. We have a number of case studies in Europe and Asia, but the core comparison is on Edo and Amsterdam. And my case studies are also located in Edo and Amsterdam. What we do is collecting snapshots of the street use and put those on the map. And these snapshots consist of an event, location, and a person. In the project, we systematically capture movement and street use within the perspective of space. So we analyze what activities happen where and in what space in order to reconstruct everyday mobility and the street use. Now on the right-hand side, you may see partial snaps of some mapping that I have done, for instance. These results may show important information about mobility or space use clusters, but my question here is it possible to fully depict his street life within only horizontal dimension? And what if we want to focus on the spatiality of the streets, especially as an urban brain? So to tackle with this problem, I introduced 3D reconstructions and aim at adding other layers of information about places, use, and the flows. At the end, this overall 3D digital reconstructions aims at enabling holistic exploration of the pre-modern streets, its material and immaterial culture. Now I would like to continue by the Amsterdam case. The cityscape is the Bloemstraat in the Jordaan. It's a neighborhood that symbolized the modest living quarters for the social low and middle classes in the pre-modern times. Despite all architectural and urban renewals, especially after 1870s, the cityscape still houses some physical traces of the period. So to start the 3D reconstructions, our collaborators from 4D Research Lab conducted 3D data acquisition at the Bloemstraat by laser scanning as the primary step. At the end, we could have the 3D point cloud showing as front of the street. Now we jointly continue towards digital 3D reconstructions of the Bloemstraat, and we have been tracing back in history, building per building, to determine the architectural features each building carries in the 18th century. But I should also note that the idea of digital reconstructions gets a bit trickier, especially for some plots in which we can neither rely on physical evidence nor archival drawings. The digital reconstructions of the buildings making up the street is surely a big step towards the complete picture, but not enough if we intend to reach a realistic snapshot of historic street life. In such an approach, we do not consider the buildings and their architectural elements as separators or boundaries in between public and private worlds, but rather as dominant mediators contributing on the fluidity of the streetscape as it was experienced by the inhabitants. To achieve that, we also collect information on all aspects of street life from a wide range of sources, for instance, witness statements to the court, merchant registers, administration of tax on real property, pictorial depictions by the artists, or historical maps, amongst many. We closely inspect those primary sources and overlay them on top of each other in space, so we can at certain historic snippets. By this way, we collect names, gender, demographics, occupation titles, or their activities, as well as the relationship in between different actors. To give you an example of some of the sources we collect the information from, this is like a partial translation of a witness statement gathered from the natural deposition within the Amsterdam project. Those statements may include very detailed descriptions of the locations of the life, of the identities, even the time of the day. Now I would like to move to the second case, Edo, which is not geographically distant, but also contextually very different. My case is located in the commoners' quarters of downtown Edo in the pre-modern era. With this video, I just wanted to show a glimpse of the areas as of today, and just to underline, there is no physical evidence at all, as the historical pattern is fully erased in the city of Tokyo following the earthquake at the beginning of Meiji Restoration. Sorry. As we focus on the pre-modern strata, we could learn some important information by the maps, but they are limited if we focus on the urban layout. In the map making throughout the Edo period, for instance, there is no information about the building plots as such, but only as blocks. So lot divisions or building outlines cannot be traced on those resources. So this is a timeline of the Edo period, and I will not go into detail, but what I want to highlight here is the ephemeral character of the city. Various fires and natural disasters caused Edo to have a significant character, which was burned down and reconstructed many times, very roughly every few decades. So we have a few obstacles about the physical evidence, but there is a promising point regarding the primary sources related to the commoner's life. After the second half of the 18th century, the social and cultural policies put forth by the Kanzei reforms gave rise to the urban culture and literature. This formation took place in various printed materials as historical testimonies, showing how the Edo streets looked before the Meiji Restoration. The illustrations demonstrate broad observation about the daily life, urban spaces, and the city dwellers. Here I included just a few very crucial primary sources related to the very location. In addition to maps and the archival inventories, you may also spot a visual resource, in here the Kidai Shoran Scroll. Though I should highlight the fact that we do not assess the visual image, the visual illustration, as a true reflection of the reality in the pre-modern time, but rather we cross-compare it with other inputs, and on top of that, we imply critical vision of resource criticism. Here is a rough perspective view of the land use for the Edo case. The vertical sections are different areas of interest. In the Edo case, I would like to highlight the pluralistic nature of the urban life and demonstrate the contradictions in spatial use and formation.
Sorry to break in. You're at 9 minutes.
In spatial use and formation in such proximities, Edo neighborhoods were compact, especially back alleys housing were spatially discrete, and yet at times almost invisible to the casual observer from passing by from the main street. This little pop-up video, I just wanted to demonstrate the current stage of the in the Edo reconstructions. So I started from the main street and then I will continue to the back alleys. What does this 3D model started to show is the spatial layout, but yet it excludes overall entities such as the changes of the boundaries in the day and night, or the specific users, social practices such as festival times, or the reflections of the very daily life. Above all, I want to show the spatial fluidity and the dynamism. So, and in parallel, we are working on harvesting on event and person and location information. So what I will do at the end is to enhance this digital reconstruction with these inputs and represent the secret of the ephemeral streets of Edo once it were at the beginning of 1800s. So yeah, this is the end of my presentation. I invite you to visit our webpage and to follow our Twitter handle to follow up the news and the advancements.
Thank you.
I'm a bit a few seconds, but
I think you did excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, is the sound off?
Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, we're together in the same room. So, if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat.
Charles heeft al iets gezegd.
By Charles van der Heuvel. He asked, which plans have been considered as constructed? Have you noticed the differences between the constellation of Amsterdam, parcels, and the parcels of Edo? And attaches to that the question, do you know Edo and Vancouver?
Yeah, the second question is just a reminder, so that hasn't been discussed now, but the first question is just about the impact of the two-dimensional level of the grids. So you were comparing the Jordan with Edo, and Edo has different sort of dimensions of the grid. And I was wondering whether you are taking that into account in your analysis of restriction, because this is about freedom of the space. And to which extent do you believe that the type of grid has an impact on that?
Yes, the urban layout in both cities are very different. And of course it is affecting the scale and the perception and the activities, the densities and so on. But it is not the only parameter that we base our comparison upon. So, but of course it is affecting the scale in 2D, also in 3D. Yeah, but not only only one point of comparison, let's say.
I think we have time for another quick question. And like Julia said, we'll have more time after all the presentations. But Jonathan is asking, do you consider adding textures to the 3D models? And if so, how would you sample them, specifically in the Edo case?
Yes. Yes, I intend to add textures. But I don't know to which extent and to which detail they would be. So I would like to present the physical culture and also the material culture. But those also should be reliable in the sense of the representation. So yeah, at the end, I would like to add textures to the models, showing the material culture.
We have time for another quick one, if there's anyone with a last quick question. Type very fast. So if not, you can save it for the discussion at the end. So give the word back to you, Julia.
Okay, can you hear me okay? It's switching, it's technical problems here. Okay, thank you very much, Gamze. So exciting to see how that work is progressing and how much it comes to life, these environments. Thank you very much.